Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Scotland at 7. I'm sorry we're a little bit late this evening, but there has been a great deal of activity with the coronavirus. And here in the studio this evening to help me discuss and analyse the latest information on the coronavirus this evening, Day Tucker, our Rural Affairs spokesperson. Welcome back, Day.
Thank you.
And on my right-hand side, we've got Chris McCusker, a regular contributor from the SNP's Socialist Group. Now, as of 2 p.m. today, in Scotland, there have been a total of 2,892 coronavirus tests conducted, and of these, 2,300 sorry, I beg your pardon, I'll read that again. 2,832 tests were confirmed negative. 60 tests were positive. The UK figures, including Scotland, report that 29,764 people have been tested, of which 29,174 were confirmed negative and 590 confirmed as positive. 8 patients who tested positive for the COVID-19 have sadly died from their illness. The government's chief scientific advisor, Patrick Vallance, today estimated the likely number of people in Britain infected with the coronavirus is between 5,000 and 10,000. There are currently about 590 cases identified in the UK, and there are more than 20 patients on intensive care units. If you calculate what that really means in terms of the total number, it's much more likely that you have somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000 people infected at the moment, he said. The coronavirus has infected more than 126,000 people around the world, the vast majority in China, and it has killed 4,624 people, according to a Reuters estimate. The First Minister announces large events are to be cancelled. From Monday, all large gatherings above 500 people with the potential to impact the emergency services should be cancelled to prioritise the COVID-19 coronavirus outbreak. The First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, has announced the action in Scotland to protect the resilience of the emergency services until the impact of the virus has lessened substantially. Managing large events safely can require significant commitment and planning from the police, fire and ambulance services, as well as others such as the voluntary sector. At a time when there is severe pressure on the emergency and public services as a result of the virus, cancelling such large events will free up vital resources to focus on dealing with the outbreak. Guidance on how this action will impact events will be produced before Monday. The First Minister said today event organisers should take action now to help our emergency services to deal with the scale of the challenge we face with the coronavirus. Our frontline services are doing a fantastic job, but they are already under pressure, which will increase as the number of cases in Scotland rises. The emergency services are well placed to deal with this outbreak, but mass gatherings such as large football and rugby matches, as well as concerts, can have a significant impact on emergency service resources. Removing unnecessary burdens on our frontline workers is the right thing to do, so that they can prioritise their response to where it is needed the most. Now, there's a lot of information coming out constantly at the moment. Updates are coming in by the minute, in fact. But let me turn to you first today, because I know that there's been a lot of talk about people isolating themselves and the fact that people in the countryside have not really been mentioned in any of the actions which the government's requesting people to take.
Yes. Well, as a farmer and as somebody who has been a mentor in terms of mental health with farming, I know just how lonely it can be, because farmers tend to be on their own, working on their own. So if there's an upside to anything of this, it could be that farmers will escape reasonably well.
You feel that
they are the ones who are producing the food for the nation.
Of course, and they're a critical part of the entire food chain for the United Kingdom, but particularly in Scotland as well.
Yes, very much so.
So you think that their physical isolation, just by accident pretty much, it may protect them to some extent from this virus?
Yes, if you although they may get it at some point. I mean, I'm just hoping that I don't get it until the lambing is finished.
I see.
And I'm consciously not going to meetings that I perhaps might have gone to.
Yeah. So you're already beginning to feel that weight of responsibility,
Yes.
not to go and socialise in the way that
I
you
mean,
normally would.
Even this morning, I was driving back from having delivered something to somebody, and I met one of our local worthies on the road, and I stopped and I said, "Are you wanting a lift?" Without thinking.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until he came over and we had a chat, and he leaned right up against the window and started, and I'm thinking, like this. But I mean, he's like me, he's on his own anyway. So.
Yeah. So he's unlikely to have met anyone who's probably been anywhere near this virus.
That's
in the
right.
first
And he
place.
didn't want to lift because he wanted to walk, so that was fine.
Fair enough. Well, Chris, let me come to you. And I know your specialisation is largely in things to do with the unions, and particularly workplaces.
Yeah.
And I know that you also have an interest in the aviation industry, which is obviously going to be really hard pressed shortly if another a ban on flying into the UK happens. We've now got a ban on flights into the USA.
Yeah.
Has that already started?
And out of the USA as well.
Has it had any impact so far on flights in and out of Scotland's airports?
At this moment in time, no, it hasn't. An awful lot of travel companies are reporting a downturn in sales. And on social media, you see more and more people asking general questions, sort of like, is it all right if I book a flight in July? What do you think, peeps, and things like that?
There are a lot of people asking those
people
questions.
are, obviously conscious about it. But I think if it goes to another phase...
What kind of other phase do you
mean? I think if, at this moment we've moved into delay.
Yes.
Or we've moved out of delay.
We've gone from containment to delay.
Containment to delay. So I think that it will be scaled up again, I think, because I don't think that this is just going to die out any weekend soon.
The next phase is pretty draconian, isn't it? It's sort of segregating people out and separating them from one another.
Yes, it is, and I really hope that the British government totally avoid that because it's got echoes of the Gulag and stuff like that. Where you're separating people into pens.
The political baggage from the past, notwithstanding, I do know from some social media posts today that Italy's lockdown really seems to be working, and that they're now reporting a sharp drop-off. There's a significant drop of the numbers of new cases in Italy, and they think now that they're beginning to get on top of it.
I think Italy have taken up.
They've still got over 1,000 deaths today.
But I think they're taking, because they've had that amount of deaths, I think they're taking, the action that's necessary. I know for a fact in Italy that there's only selected amount of supermarkets that are opening.
They've taken very specific measures, allowing only
those
two
supermarkets have got to be over a certain square foot. Like 25,000 square foot.
There has to be enough space for people to walk around without coming into contact.
And I've seen the statement from the First Minister today, about the 500 people sort of limit.
I wonder why 500 was chosen.
Could it be because if you've got a gathering of 500 and over, you must by law have to have police and fire and ambulance?
So it's a legal requirement to inform the police.
Yeah, I know when we're running shows, agricultural shows, and our local one at Drimmen was nearly bankrupted because we had to employ police.
I would imagine if it was an organised rally or a parade of some kind, you would also have to have it insured.
I mean, I don't know for sure.
Indemnified.
But again, the other question is the 500 odd. Is that if you go to Braehead or if you go to the fort or the forge, there's more than 500 people there at any one given time.
We have a little bit of stop press information. This is a press statement which has actually just come in. It came in to the office today here, and it's all under one banner. All under one banner, the Grassroots Pressure Group for Scottish Independence has announced that the march at Arbroath on Saturday the 4th of April has been postponed. This follows information provided by NHS Scotland and Scottish ministers. As measures to mitigate the effects of the spread of the coronavirus is put in place, the group, which organises huge public events across Scotland, has acted quickly. Social distancing, this is what I think we were just referring to, Chris, recognised as a key measure in delaying the spread of the virus and reducing pressure on the NHS and other emergency services. It means that the march plan for Arbroath must be postponed. So this is yet another sign, I think, that people are now seeing this as a serious danger.
Yep.
It's not a party political matter. It's not something where we want to score points.
And acting very responsibly.
As we would expect
Yep.
a responsible organisation to behave.
Yes,
And I think many people have been asking today, again on social media, about all kinds of independence events which were planned for this year, whether any of it will be able to be held now.
Well. Going back to the question that you were asking me about workplaces and stuff like that, the point that I was going to elaborate on about places like Braehead and all these kind of like places where people congregate en masse, if you take that, that the people who are working in there, people who are working on the tills, or even people working at Glasgow Airport, when I used to be the rep, you know, anybody that's got hand-to-hand contact should have access to hand gel, their own personal hand gel, because they're dealing in money, they're dealing in passports.
And also dealing with cash is one of very risky thing to do as well, apparently.
You know, I mean, I have seen in my own lifetime people in a state of panic when they come to the airport and they've got the passports in their mouths.
Yes,
of course. Yes.
And you know, and some people, you know, when they're going through the supermarket, you know, they would put a tenner in their mouth and stuff like that because they didn't grab a shopping trolley and they've got all the goods.
Well, we know that the virus can survive on a smooth surface for a few hours at most, but
is it not longer
but also
than that?
there's also apparently a problem with loose food. Food that's not packaged as well.
Yeah.
So the bakery food, I guess some fruit as well, perhaps might be.
Well, you should always wash your fruit anyway, shouldn't you?
But all of these things
get the chemicals off it.
You would normally wash them anyway.
Yeah. But I wouldn't wash bread.
But as somebody said, yes, you can't wash bakery produce. It just goes to mush.
No, but you can dunk the bread into your red wine and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, avant-garde for
that's
people who like Italian cuisine.
Well, listen, I think we'll move the story along to part of the next part of this discussion on the coronavirus. Now, people with symptoms suggestive of coronavirus. Now, COVID-19, as it's now known.
Not Corvid-19.
No.
As I sometimes put.
A fever or a new cough. So anybody with a fever or a new cough should stay at home for 7 days from tomorrow. That's Friday the 13th, incidentally. A significant number by the sound of it. Scotland's Chief Medical Officer has announced those who have been in contact with someone who is experiencing symptoms should only stay at home if they begin to experience symptoms. That, I presume, themselves. The advice comes from the First Minister. The advice comes after the First Minister confirmed that the Scottish and the UK governments are moving from the containment phase to delay phase. The decision to move to the delay phase and propose people with symptoms stay at home follows scientific advice from 4 UK chief medical officers who have said it is a necessary step to try and slow down the spread of the infection. The Chief Medical Officer, Catherine Calderwood, has said Scotland is well prepared for a significant outbreak of coronavirus, but there is currently no treatment or vaccine. Early detection measures will continue to be vital in helping to prevent the spread of the virus. Following scientific and clinical advice, we have moved from containment to delay, and that means we are advising all those experiencing symptoms which may be coronavirus, including those with mild symptoms, to stay at home. People have a vital role to play in helping us contain any outbreak by following the latest health and travel advice and following basic hygiene precautions such as washing hands frequently, not touching their faces, and covering their noses and mouth with a tissue when coughing or sneezing.
Which you should be doing
And
anyway.
obviously don't touch bakery produce when you're in the supermarket.
Don't sneeze
because you
over
can't
it.
wash it. So we're being told now that if we start to display symptoms, even mild symptoms, flu-like symptoms of an unexpected persistent cough or a high temperature, then we are immediately just to stay where we are for 7 days. Now, what I didn't read out there, and I don't think it is actually in our report at the moment, is after the 7 days, if you get worse, then I think you are supposed to ring NHS 24
Right.
if the symptoms persist and get worse. But that's going to be kind of difficult, I think, if you have sort of isolated yourself somewhere far away from the phone. But anyway,
Well, I was wanting to raise the issue. I was out last night. I went to watch the Liverpool match. Unfortunately, it wasn't a very good result for us. But I was sitting on the subway, and I've naturally got a smoker's cough. And, you know, so I had a wee sort of like cough. 4 people looked at me like I had, you know, I was a complete leper. And I was like, it's all right, I'm a smoker. You know, I felt that I had to qualify myself.
But Jason Leach, who's the gentleman that was on the GMS the other morning, very, very good. And one of the things he said was that we must absolutely not pillory people just because they've coughed or sneezed. Because
well, they
he
could
said
have a cold.
you could have a cold or anything, and you must not do that.
But
There has been one instance actually of a Chinese or an Oriental person being physically
Yes.
abused by somebody.
that was
Well, I
also
noticed
shocking.
next door's closed.
Next door.
The
Or
Chinese
the Chinese
restaurant.
restaurant nearby.
I think they normally close
Yeah, I
once a
don't think
week or
that's
something
linked.
like that, I think.
They've never been closed when I've come on a Thursday.
I mean, I would say that, you know, going back to what I said earlier, I think that, you know, it is going to move up another stage. You know, when will we see restaurants and fast food chains actually being told to cease trading?
There is definitely...
And when are they, you know, what is the... There's a certain ambiguity from the UK government about payments and stuff like that. First Minister said today in FMQs that we're still waiting to be told what the allocation is.
Yes.
You know, to Scotland. You know, and she was saying, she was quite careful to say, and I have to point this out, Gordon. She was quite careful to say that this wasn't a complaint. She knows that the government are busy and all the rest of it, but because of the questions that were coming from Jackson Carlaw and Richard Leonard, she couldn't give an answer to because the UK government haven't gave her an answer to that.
One of the things I was going to say, Chris, sorry to interrupt, was that I think Boris Johnson had promised in a statement recently, it might also have been Rishi Sunak, whatever his name is, the new Chancellor, had said that self-employed people who would struggle, obviously, if they had to isolate themselves, that there was money in the budget. They were going to make, if I remember correctly, sick pay available for the first time ever to or was it access to benefits?
Yeah, it was access
to benefits for.
Yeah, and it's but it still doesn't cover people that are on 0 hours contracts.
No.
And they haven't qualified any of this 5-week wait.
Well,
they have said that
that will be
loans. No. They have said that loans will be available from the first day.
Well.
But you know, they've yet to actually, because the SNP were arguing about this yesterday.
Chris, can I just clarify one thing about this? I was talking about self-employed people, not those on 0 hours contracts.
Yeah.
Self-employed people will be given access to universal credit without the 5-week wait from day one of their isolation.
Yeah.
People on 0 hours contracts are also apparently to be given the same courtesy, the same access from day one.
Right, well, I apologise, I've been misinformed.
The news keeps changing, Chris, this is the problem. We're hearing it.
Would it not just
Okay.
be better to invite the producer?
I'm just hearing clarification in my ear from the producer, saying that there are other if for self-employed people there is a minimum income sort of guarantee to this that will be provided. So we're getting too much information too quickly here. This is a problem with this.
The other point as well that Ian Blackford was making in his reply to the actual budget, he made the point that it's £94 odd for the statutory sick pay,
Right.
whereas in places like Ireland and stuff like that, it's 260 quid, or €260. Germany is a little bit behind that. France is a bit behind that. Italy is a bit behind that. So the point that he was trying to make was the fact that we are behind the times in statutory sick pay, and it really needs the government to have a serious look at that.
Yeah.
We definitely have the lowest pensions of the developed
The
world.
lowest pensions as well.
State pensions, I should say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not a time to be, partly political when you're discussing this, but there are so many. There are so many ramifications that come out of an outbreak such as this, which highlight also the fact that I'll even like to mention Chris Stevens made a very valid point that one of his constituents brought to him about food banks. And supermarkets said that they were scaling back what they were given to food banks because of the, and he actually made this, and he made this point. And the minister that he made the point to at the dispatch box did say, I will research that and I will get back to you, because this can't be the case. Because people who are vulnerable and on low incomes, they can't stockpile.
No.
And if it does come to that, where you've got wealthy people who can afford to go out and and fill the cupboards for 2-3 weeks at a time.
Of course, the thing is, Chris, that the food banks shouldn't need to exist in the first place.
Well, of course, and that's why
if people were given adequate benefits from the word go, they would not be necessary.
But that's why I think that the Tories should, act on this, because it's their creation.
Do you think this is an opportunity for them to put this right? Do you think they ever would?
They're not going to put it right, but they need to. When things like this are being highlighted to them, they need to act.
Indeed.
If they're not going to put up people's earnings, if they're not going to cover statutory sick pay, things like that, or they're not even going to come up to what we purport to do in Scotland as paid a living wage, then
so
they need to do
universal
something.
basic income is another suggestion as a way of making sure that people don't need to go to food banks ever. That everyone has sufficient means to survive. I'm going to move the conversation along a little bit now. We're going to talk briefly about Boris Johnson's reaction to the situation today. At a meeting of Britain's Cobra Emergency Committee, Boris Johnson decided to move up to the so-called delay phase from the contain phase. This is now not just an attempt to contain the disease as far as possible, but to delay its spread, he said at a news conference with the government's top scientific and medical advisors. Johnson said that those showing symptoms of having the virus should self-isolate for at least a week. It's going to spread further, Johnson said. I must level with the British people. Many more families are going to lose loved ones before their time. The British plan for dealing with the outbreak has 3 main phases: containment, delay and mitigation. In the delay phase, so-called social distancing measures such as school closures, more home working and reducing large-scale gatherings will be considered, although will not necessarily be approved immediately. Johnson said that he was not closing schools at the present time, but that advice on schools could change as the virus spreads. In Ireland, schools will shut, universities and childcare facilities as well, until the 29th of March and restrict mass gatherings to slow the spread of the coronavirus. Acting Prime Minister Leo Varadkar has announced today. So every country is taking measures at the moment, although I have to say, I don't know about you, I'm slightly worried about Boris Johnson's choice of words there. To go back to what he actually said, and he said, I must level with you, many more families are going to lose loved ones before their time.
Pretty horrendous,
What a
isn't it?
terrible thing to say. If you're trying to prevent panic and get people to act responsibly, telling people they're going to lose loved ones before their time seems a remarkably...
Was there not actually a Tory MP
clumsy
who came
thing
out
to say.
and said something about pensioners this week, that they will naturally die through this, and he actually suggested that was it. Oh no, I tell a lie. It was a journalist from the Daily Telegraph who wrote about this and said that it would be a good thing to winnow out the chaff.
Yes.
Well, the other problem...
Is that the words he used?
Well, it's not exactly the words that he used, but that's what he was suggesting.
I suspect...
Culling.
People like Boris Johnson have obviously forgotten that diseases do not recognise class barriers.
Yes.
Nor age barriers.
No,
And
but he does.
But most of the... correct me if I'm wrong here, Chris, but my impression is that most Tory voters are over 65.
That's right.
Yep.
So many of the Conservatives that own... You know, they could be at risk as well as a result of this. So it cuts across all boundaries.
But in saying that, the number of 500 at a gathering would mean that all the unionist conferences will be pretty safe. Do you know what I mean? Because they can't get.
Well, there have been a
more
lot
than
of jokes
500.
about Liberal Democrats.
I just thought I'd
Put that
bring a bit
one
of
in.
levity
Yeah,
into
yeah.
the conversation.
Yeah, the story was the Liberal Democrats, the only people not cancelling their conference this
The
year.
only downside to that is that if you think about it, the Tory voters tend to be wealthier, so they can afford.
They can afford to stock up.
Or they can afford to go and spend a couple of months in the Seychelles.
Yes, exactly.
But, like I say, this disease as a pandemic will spread gradually across all countries. So there won't be many places left where you can escape it.
Well, yeah, because diseases, again, don't know borders,
No.
same as they don't know classes as well. I hadn't read that piece that actually said that they have identified the 3 stages. So we're in stage 2 at the moment. Stage 3, I think, is cited as mitigation, and that's when you're going to see, a real lockdown like Italy.
Well, the other thing, I mean, Dave, you mentioned this to me before we came on air, the idea that people are going to start losing money because of this coronavirus.
Yes.
Because that there are whole sections of the economy, all kinds of different businesses, which depend largely on human beings coming to the cinemas, theatres, pubs. That there's the whole
tourism
experience industry. Yeah, tourism, and I know as a rural spokesperson, tourism is very much to the forefront for you as well.
Yes, very
Has
much
it started to affect tourism that you know of yet? Have you heard any word of cancellations or people starting to lose bookings?
I haven't myself, but I did see on Twitter that somebody had said that they had cancellations.
Well, Alison Thewlis mentioned today that there was a conference scheduled for Glasgow this weekend of 3,000 people, and that got cancelled. And the knock-on effect on that of hotels and
businesses,
restaurants and all the rest of it. And at what stage are we going to see more of those events happening?
Yes.
It's Monday now that they have said that they're going to look at football matches and all the rest of it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, we've got...
I understand the Greens have just cancelled their spring conference.
All right.
They announced that this afternoon, I believe.
The Old Firm match is on Sunday. Some would argue that should get played behind closed doors because of the...
Some would argue it should always be played behind closed doors.
Well, yeah, but knock-on effects of a match of that magnitude.
Yes.
You know,
you
you've
can
got
watch it on the
60,000
telly,
people.
surely.
Exactly.
Yeah, of course you can. But obviously, those people who are there, you know, working the cameras and stuff like that.
Yeah,
you know, so you
There's
just
catering
don't know.
and there's all kinds of different activities
Well, yeah,
around football
because
games.
there's an English
Merchandising.
football team who have been in touch with someone who has got coronavirus, and they've been isolated from their training schedule and they've been sent away, and that team isn't playing.
We also had a
week.
member of a women's rugby club or rugby team in Scotstoun who had the virus.
Yeah,
the whole of the Scotstoun Stadium in Glasgow was closed and deep cleaned.
But then it's a funny contrast that one of the Tory ministers has got
Nadine Dorris, the health minister,
and she had a meeting with Boris Johnson, and yet neither of the two. Well, I think she is now isolating.
She has,
Yes,
but
also,
Boris Johnson isn't.
Who's the minister that was sitting coughing and choking beside Boris when he was delivering?
Oh, tell me it was Michael Gove.
No,
right,
no.
All right, we're going to move on.
It's another one.
Before we start having a go at pure Michael Gove, going to be mine. Okay, so we're going to
Chris Grayling even.
Chris Grayling. Okay, we'll come back to him another time. We are going to move to Italy now, and the death toll in Italy has jumped. The death toll from the outbreak of coronavirus in Italy has jumped in the last 24 hours to, by 189 to 1,016, a rise of 23%. The Civil Protection Agency has said this on Thursday. The total number of cases in Italy, the European country hardest hit by the virus, rose to 15,113 from a previous 12,462. And that's an increase of 21.7%. That marked the biggest daily rise in absolute terms since the contagion first came to light on February the 21st. The agency said that of those originally infected, 1,258 had fully recovered compared to 1,045 the day before. Some, 1,153 people, were in intensive care against the previous 1,028. In the United States, they've gone into crisis mode as coronavirus cases have soared and travel restrictions have been announced. The United States went into crisis mode to contain the coronavirus outbreak that has played havoc with businesses, shuttered schools and universities, and severely disrupted the sports and entertainment world. Fears of a recession grew as the US cases of coronavirus that causes sometimes fatal COVID-19 respiratory illness rose, and the Trump administration prepared to roll out restrictions that threatened to cripple the travel industry. The US stock markets cratered again after trading opened with major indexes entering bear market territory. Officials in the hardest hit parts of the country, including New York and Washington states, were trying to balance the need to protect the public while stopping short of actions that could freeze the daily lives of millions of people and stop all economic activity. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio told the CNN that more and more restrictions were likely on the way, although he said there were no plans to shut down the city's famous theatre district or its subway system, a vital transportation link. "I don't want to see Broadway go dark," de Blasio said, adding that the authorities will be issuing further guidance either on Thursday or Friday. He also announced the closure of 2 schools in the city due to a student's self-confirmed positive case of COVID-19. Hollywood has postponed the release of several movies, and movie theatres around the world have been closed over the health crisis. More than 1,300 US cases of coronavirus have been confirmed. 33 people have died, according to a tally by Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore. A nursing home in Kirtland, Washington has accounted for a large share of the deaths. The US health officials have struggled to quickly expand testing capacity to make screening for the virus widely available, and have acknowledged that it's not easy for those possibly exposed to the virus to get tested. "The system is not really geared to what we need right now," Anthony Fauci said. A top US official on infectious diseases said at a congressional hearing. The idea of people getting it, he meant the testing, easily, the way people in other countries are doing, well, we're not set up for that. Oscar-winning actor Tom Hanks and at least one player in the National Basketball Association are among those who have been infected with the highly infectious coronavirus, which can lead to pneumonia and other respiratory problems, especially in the elderly and those with compromised immune systems. The NBA has suspended its season until further notice. Harvard and Princeton are among the universities to have announced that they will move to virtual classroom instruction after the spring break this month. US citizens and permanent residents returning from abroad will be screened for the virus and asked to go into self-quarantine for 14 days, Vice President Mike Pence said at an interview with CNN. Americans coming home will be funneled through 13 different airports. They'll be screened, and then we're going to ask every single American and legal resident returning to the United States to self-quarantine for 14 days, Pence said. President Donald Trump defended his decision to impose a 30-day restriction on travel from Europe, except Britain and Ireland, that goes into effect at midnight on Friday. Now, I'm just going to stop the script here for a moment, because when I first heard this story about Donald Trump cancelling flights from Europe into North America, except for Britain
And Ireland.
I was puzzled by that.
Yep.
Why on earth does he want to leave a door open for the COVID virus
Because
to
he's
pass?
a baby. He blames the EU for the virus.
So do you think that this is a political
Yes.
statement by Trump, that he's
Absolutely.
definitely victimising
Yes.
the Europeans?
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
Seems a remarkably
I would say
infantile thing to do.
I would say you're 100% spot on with that remark.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think that he is dealing in grievance politics towards the EU.
Yes.
You know, he would quite like to, because the EU are not sold on the whole TTIP idea.
They won't lower their standards.
Transatlantic trade partnership. And he has to forage that between America and Britain. And, you know, I mean,
Yes,
obviously
he's
he'll
trying
come
to
out on
split
top of that. And he's trying to
Divide and rule.
divide and rule and marginalise the
Yeah.
EU.
But he's also
I mean,
placing-
let's not mince words here. The man's an out and out racist.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't like the EU for their values. He
Yeah.
doesn't like them because you know
They're not American.
They're not American, and 85% of them don't speak American or English.
Yeah.
You know, so this is exactly as you said, Dave. You know, it is a divide and conquer
Yeah.
exercise.
It just seems like a vindictive act.
Yeah. And he's gone a stage further. Leo Varadkar is in the Oval Office today. And he says, at our meeting in the Oval Office earlier, I spoke to President Trump about how we all need to work together to combat COVID-19. I told him Ireland has acted decisively. So he's kind of nudging him and saying, get on with it. The US has great scientists, so he's smoothing him down. Universities and companies who can help develop treatment and a vaccine. And he's right, because they've got one of our top Scottish scientists over there who's already...
She's gene mapped the entire
Yes.
virus already.
But I also heard the report, and I'm sorry about the source, but it was on the BBC. What is that?
You can't help it.
The Strathclyde University, who are leading the way with this, it has to be said.
It's actually Glasgow University.
It's Glasgow University.
Sorry.
I do apologise, but they are actually looking. They are not looking at new drugs to treat COVID-19. They're looking at existing drugs and the combination of existing drugs because they are already licensed and ready to go.
Yeah, this is
if
a similar...
you get a new drug, it takes 6 months for it to go through all the various red tape and hoops.
Even
and
in
stuff
an
like
emergency
that.
situation.
Yeah.
However,
So,
the same... They have mapped the genome of this virus, but also in the past, in HIV, they worked on multiple drug combinations, which reduced and controlled the infection dramatically. It made people's lives possible, actually, who carried HIV.
But surely a businessman such as Trump would understand this and
But he's
know
a
it.
child first, before he's a businessman.
It seems that Varadkar has been sort of dangling a carrot in front of him, saying there's money to be made out of a virus vaccine if you jump on a bandwagon. Now, Varadkar is not known as anything of a socialist. He's very much based right down the centre, capitalist, free marketeer, and obviously he is a friend to Trump. And
at this point in time,
Now, it should be said here. I'm just backing up my script a little bit because the travel restrictions which Mr. Trump had placed on, well, basically Europeans. Will heap more pressure on airlines already reeling from the pandemic, hitting European carriers the hardest, analysts have said. The global stock market sank again on Thursday. Standard & Poor's 500 and the Nasdaq indexes entered the bear market. Standard & Poor's 500 plunged more than 8%, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average was down 4.3%. Airlines and some cruise line stocks were particularly hard hit. Now, I know for a fact from listening all day to the various figures coming out of the stock market that all of the airlines, their share prices have dropped by about 14% on average. Hotel chains likewise. And most companies, most major blue chip companies have lost somewhere between 12 and 20% on their stocks. We seem to be sort of teetering on the brink of a global recession at the moment, and this virus is just giving us that nudge over the edge. It's quite a scary time.
Because it is roughly every 10 years that these shocks to
the boom and bust cycle,
the global economy happens, isn't
That's
it?
what happens when you deal in capitalism.
That's the way capitalism works. Everybody makes money for about 10 years, and then the balloon bursts.
And then they start again.
Yeah, they just restart.
And, you know, all throughout that process,
anyway,
the poor are still poor, and the rich are still rich. Because as my old father used to say, money goes to money.
Yes.
As well.
Staying in America for a moment, the US House of Representatives plans to vote on the Democrats' sweeping coronavirus bill on Thursday, according to a Democratic aide. Republicans have balked at the plan and called for a delay in considering the proposed legislation. And Trump said on Thursday that he didn't support the bill. Instead, Mr. Trump has pushed for a payroll tax cut and instructed the Treasury Department to defer tax payments without interest or penalties for certain businesses and individuals hit by the health crisis. It doesn't specify who these businesses and individuals are. The President also backs emergency action to provide financial relief for workers who are ill, quarantined, or caring for others due to the coronavirus. So Mr. Trump appears to be at least doing very similar things to what Boris Johnson has suggested today. Virtually a mirror of it, in fact, offering money to businesses affected by the virus.
But then you think, so who's up there manipulating the puppets?
Well, but of course, as somebody was pointing out to me just a few moments ago in my ear, that there's a whole underclass in North America which doesn't enter into these statistics at all, who exist on the fringes of society, who get nothing from any of this. They certainly won't be getting any healthcare. As we know, the American healthcare system is vastly expensive.
It's bizarre just how well coordinated the UK government is with the US government.
One thing that was fantastic about, and I'm not usually a flag waver for Great Britain, but in this particular instance, having a national health service, although Scotland's health service is devolved, they are all linked together, and there's a central command system for emergencies like this. So even though our health service in Scotland is separately managed, it is linked to this larger network. And when there is something like this happens, they all act together in exactly the same way. And I don't think there are many health services in the world capable of doing that. Certainly not North America.
Well, I mean, that would explain why the FMQs today was very cordial. And anything that
everyone was very polite
Nicola,
today.
well, with one exception, there was a Tory MSP that it really went hardline on Nicola, and it was absolutely booed.
There's always one.
You know, there's always one.
Go on.
I can't remember who it was. Do you know what I mean? He's so insignificant. I just can't remember his name.
It must have been an innocuous one.
Well, I was half expecting it to be Michelle Ballantyne, but it wasn't. But the general consensus of the leaders. And their replies to Nicola was very cordial, and but they were all sort of like, "Oh, that's great. She's playing along with the UK government. Oh, yes, she's working with the UK government."
They won't be saying that now.
You know, but you know, when it's time for Scotland to sort of like take its own measured divergences from what the UK is doing, that's when you're going to see a return of the grievance policy,
Yes.
Grievance politics back in to Holyrood. But at the moment,
Because we're electing together, everybody's chummy, is what you're
yes,
saying.
aye.
Well,
we'll just
if we can leave the UK politics for a moment and return to the sort of global picture, global markets took another hammering today as alarm over the coronavirus intensified, and governments from Ireland to Italy scrambled to contain the impact of the disease, which has infected more than 126,000 people worldwide. Travellers in Europe rushed to board flights in the United States after Donald Trump imposed sweeping restrictions on travel from the continent, a decision which has angered leaders there. Events from sports matches to weddings were cancelled or suspended as normal life for millions began to be directly impacted. Trump even suggested that the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo could be delayed by a year. Maybe they postpone it for a year, if that's possible, Trump told reporters at the White House. I like that better than I like having empty stadiums all over the place. But in China, where the epidemic originated, officials said the disease had peaked and global spread could be over by June if other nations applied similarly aggressive containment measures as Beijing's communist government. Fears of the impact of such restrictions on the movement of people and goods hit global stocks and oil prices hard. Major European bourses fell by double-digit percentages, while Italian stocks plunged 17% for their worst single-day loss ever, as stimulus efforts from the European Central Bank did little to calm nerves. Wall Street stocks tumbled 7% at the opening, triggering a 15-minute suspension of trading amid growing signs of corporate distress in the face of the pandemic. The market plunge hit airline and leisure stocks particularly hard, which we've just been discussing a few minutes ago. It's interesting the words that are being used to describe the effect of this virus on the global markets, where corporate distress.
Corporate distress.
The poor darlings are distressed because they're going to lose money.
Yeah.
Not because people are dying, but because of the effect it will have on their businesses.
I mean, metaphorically speaking, I don't think that we're at the stage where you've got stockbrokers jumping out a 77.
No.
Well, obviously, it will affect people's jobs, won't it?
Windows in Wall Street. It will affect people's
Some businesses
people's jobs.
will fold under this.
Businesses will fold, and this is what the bringing it back to Britain, this is what the SNP were asking for, assurances for businesses. And no doubt America's not that different to Britain in that regard. You know, well, there are lots of individual stores, you know, people working for themselves and have been doing it for years. They've got a rural economy as well. They've got farmers.
I was going to just ask you, Dave. Sorry to interrupt you, Chris. No. The British government has been promising small businesses that there will be money made available to them to compensate them. There will be loans made available, presumably at vanishingly small interest rates, one would hope. But how much faith do farmers have in the British government that they will provide any kind of aid should they be hit? I'm not just talking about farmers, but rural businesses generally.
Rural businesses. I think any faith that they had, and they did have faith, otherwise they wouldn't have voted for
the Conservatives.
What they did. I think that has gone.
You think the farmers have now lost their...
Yeah, and I'm seeing it even with my English friends, farming friends on Twitter, who were very pro-Brexit and pro-Boris.
They're regretting it now.
Oh, yes. Well, they're kind of quiet, but yeah, definitely.
Well, they'll probably be embarrassed to think they've been misled and conned.
Yes,
They feel a bit silly.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think
understand that.
I think that's been replicated on into the fishing communities as
yes,
well.
It has.
And you know,
There's a
and it's
silence.
not nice. Well, I mean, it is not
It's not nice.
to sit in the corner and say, well, we told you so. But we told you so.
Yeah.
But the salient point must be made is that they have now got a chance next year to vote with their feet.
Yes.
Who
are they going to vote for?
Well, you see, this is it, and if again it comes down to, I think, what the SNP have got to offer. Bearing in mind the fact that the SNP are not going to be the party of government for ad infinitum, but they have to decide if Scotland, has asked that question. Do you want to have more misery on your businesses and on your way of life?
Yes.
Or do you want a chance at something else? That is when they have to vote with their feet.
Yes.
Will they have the courage of the convictions to do so? Because it's you're
I think
saying
they
at
will
this
in
moment.
Scotland.
Yeah, but you're saying at this moment in time, they're all staying very, very quiet.
Yes.
They don't want to break ranks. But there is going to come a time when that question's going to be asked.
Well, there are. I mean, many people vote the same way all their lives, and when their party does something stupid, they go quiet because they don't want to
but they certainly don't do it in the north of England.
But they tend not to switch sides like the Red Wall seems to have done in England.
Well,
puzzling.
exactly, and it takes something of real drastic measures in order for that action to happen. And it's not the manifesto that Jeremy Corbyn stood on. It was Jeremy Corbyn himself. That people didn't have the faith in.
Yes.
And how you can blindly put your faith into Boris Johnson, because it is Hobson's choice down in England. It's either one or the other.
Chris, if I could stop you for a moment, the story about Trump's drastic action is still causing problems because we're hearing now that Trump's move to shut the airports basically sent weary and confused travellers rushing to airports to board the last flights back to the United States. It caused a mass panic, said 20-year-old Anna Grace, a US student at Suffolk University on her first trip to Europe, who rushed to Madrid's Barajas airport at 5 a.m. to get home. The outbreak has also disrupted industry, travel, entertainment and sports across the world. Its progress in the epicentre of Chinese Hubei province has slowed markedly amid strict curbs on the movement of people, including a lockdown of its capital, Wuhan. Hubei logged just 8 new infections on Wednesday, the first time that the outbreak has recorded a daily tally in single figures. The rest of mainland China has had just 7 new cases, with 6 of them imported from abroad. The peak of the epidemic has passed for China, said Mi Feng, a spokesman for the National Health Commission. So the Chinese obviously feel now that they have passed the sort of nadir of this. It's they're going to, they're over the hump, as it were. Now, they're also saying if all countries could get mobilised, it could be over by June, he said. But if some countries do not treat the infectiousness and the harmfulness seriously and intervene strongly, it would last longer. Already annoyed at what it considered over-draconian travel restrictions by Washington early in the crisis, Beijing smarted again at the latest US criticism of its handling of the coronavirus. So there is still this antipathy between the United States and China
over
surprised? Anything, it seems.
Yeah.
What do you think of the Chinese saying that they believe that if people take as drastic action as they have as quickly, it could be over?
I think they're possibly quite right, but what we have here is a time schedule, because it manifested in China
November,
as early as November, December. And
4 months.
So 4 months on, and they are now on top of it. So they reckon.
As only they can.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're the ones that can basically build a hospital in a week.
Well, of course, the Chinese have a unique problem, which is their cities are so vastly overcrowded that an outbreak of this kind could decimate an entire city and spread across billions of people.
But I think that's possibly what Donald Trump is thinking about as well. And you know, so it would do well to heed the warning. But again, I go back to this time thing, where you know, you have that 4 months now. This is March, and then if you add you know April, June, July, August, so you're talking maybe right into autumn before we can actually see, you know, us reaching the same peak as.
But what the Chinese health minister appears to be saying is, if the West acts much more now than it has been, because we have been quite slow to react to this, and it's been gradual, piecemeal bits and
Because
pieces.
the EU only just started to come into
The EU seems to be asleep at the moment on this.
Last week, Ursula von Leyen...
They're more worried about the financial impact than the human impact, as far as I can see. They've been talking about. But obviously they are wanting to save lives, but they also are wanting to preserve the economic stability of the Union.
Yes, and the two
But
are interlinked.
the Chinese have a vast advantage over the West in that they're not a democracy.
Yes.
And therefore their party can mobilise millions of people
Yeah.
for one specific task, like
Yes.
building a hospital in a week, you
Yeah,
know, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
We couldn't do that
No.
because our system is too slow, too cumbersome.
But the other thing about you know, I have tell that car production in China is at an all-time low. It's you know, it's ceased.
Yes.
You know, for the last couple of months, and you know, they are not they're not exporting, and you know, that is going to come to a head where, you know, they're going to be basically having to start again.
Yeah.
That's the same with any major business.
Yeah. There are other countries which are introducing new measures to slow the spread of the disease, and some of them are reminiscent of war footing. Norway, in particular, invoked emergency powers to close a wide range of public and private institutions, including schools and restaurants, and to halt all sporting events. Health workers involved in the treatment of patients will be forbidden from leaving the country for until at least the end of April, and anyone returning from abroad will be quarantined for 2 weeks. Ireland, they're shutting the schools, universities and childcare until March 29th, and they're restricting mass gatherings. In the United States, classes were suspended for 2 weeks in the greater Seattle area, which accounts for the bulk of 38 US fatalities in the region.
I think Denmark has done the same.
Yeah, also Canada, Justin Trudeau and his wife Sophie were in self-isolation after she came down with flu-like symptoms. And Trump said he was not concerned about being exposed to the coronavirus after dining last week with the Brazilian president, Jair Bolsonaro, whose press aide tested positive. And the award-winning actor Tom Hanks has tested positive in Australia, where he is on film shoot. Huge number of very prominent people.
Boris Johnson is refusing to be tested, even though he's been in close contact with people who've actually got it.
It's almost as if Boris Johnson and Donald Trump believe that they're infallible and they cannot be infected.
The virus cannot touch them.
Excuse me while I just lick my lips and just you know, well, I mean, something is going to happen to someone major. And, you know, I mean, I think it was Angus Brendan McNeil that was inviting Westminster to be closed down for a number of weeks.
Maybe a number of decades would be good.
You know, that would be my thing, you know, wish. But, you know, if there are these mass governments who have got to shut down, you know, surely there's got to be some sort of remote working.
Well, the three of us really are kind of dinosaurs in the new sort of technological age. And my own son has told me that his maths teacher has said, don't worry if they close the schools, I'll conduct all the lessons and you'll do them online on the computer, and all of you can be taught in the same way as normal. It is perfectly possible for people to work remotely these days. There is no need for everybody to gather together in the House of Commons even.
That may be one good thing that comes out of it, because usually there's something good that comes out of a disaster. And that is going to help to mitigate climate change.
Indeed, because people will not be travelling
That's
unnecessarily.
The only thing is, though, is the fact that it won't help the House of Lords because they're so bloody old that they can't operate the internet.
The Civil Aviation Authority in the UK estimated that Donald Trump's ban on flights from Europe will affect 17,000 flights.
Right.
So that is 17,000 loads of pollution that will be prevented, ironically, by the spread of this disease.
So we can look forward to another of these amazing photographs from the sky, which shows before and after, covered in pollution, and then after.
No white lines of contrails.
No.
Listen, I think we are almost out of time, ladies and gentlemen. So I think the advice from the studio at the moment is, if you are ill, stay where you are.
Yes.
And look after yourself. And follow the government advice, because they're telling us these things for the good of all of us. If you are in any doubt, if you're showing symptoms, then you should self-isolate for 1 week. If the symptoms have increased or got worse, then you should ring NHS 24 or the 111 number, apparently. So these are the instructions we are having from the government at the moment. That is all we have time for this evening. The coronavirus has completely infected the studio tonight. We've been taken over by this horrible disease tonight. But as usual, I am going to ask you for money because, as you know, Scotland at 7 is produced by volunteer crew, and we are needing your support. We always need your support. So if you would like to become a regular supporter of Broadcasting Scotland, and obviously Scotland at 7 as well, then you can do so by following the instructions on your screen now, going to broadcastingscotland.scot/register. You can also make a single donation if you wish, but we welcome everybody's help as we always do. This programme and all our programmes will remain free to air. That's it from Scotland at 7. We're just hearing that Kenny, my colleague from the Tuesday and Wednesday programme, Kenny has had his operation today, so we wish Kenny all the success, and I hope he gets well soon. We look forward to seeing you back in the studio as soon as possible, Kenny. But from my guests, from Day and from Chris and myself this evening, a very good night to you.